Tonight, a shooting in Spain with the hallmarks of a professional hit. Investigations are continuing into the murder of two Scots with links to serious organised crime.
I'm in Fuengirola with the latest, and we'll have reaction from people here.
Also making the headlines, Nigel Farage is a no-show at his own Reform Party publicity event as campaigning continues in the run-up to this week's by-election. Prime Minister Keir Starmer promises support for tens of thousands of jobs in Scotland as he visits the country to unveil a new defence strategy. And in sport, closing in. Rangers' new owners are set to appoint a new head coach within days. I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. There are fears there could be further gangland retaliations on Scottish soil after the murder of two men involved in serious organised crime at a bar in a popular Spanish holiday resort. Ross Monaghan, who was acquitted of a high-profile shooting in a supermarket car park, and Eddie Lyons Jr. were gunned down in front of customers in an Irish bar in an attack that's believed to have all the hallmarks of a professional hit. Our senior reporter Gordon Cree is there for us tonight and can tell us more.
Kellyanne, it's 30 degrees here today. It's easy to see why this area is popular with holidaymakers and expats alike. But it has another reputation too as a place for people who've been trying to get away from organised crime in the UK. And it may well be that that is why Ross Monaghan and Eddie Lyons Jr. were here, two well-known names linked with gang activity in Scotland over the years. When the shooting happened here on Saturday night, it was a busy evening. People had been watching the Champions League final. One line of inquiry for police will be whether this is a significant escalation in the drugs-related turf war that's been played out across the Central Belt since March, where there have been 30 arrests following a series of assaults and firebombings. This is the moment Ross Monaghan was shot dead in the bar bearing his name. The gunman, dressed in black, burst in on Saturday night after shooting another Scot, Eddie Lyons Jr., outside.
We were sitting in the restaurant. I saw a young man running by the restaurant with two young women, and he told them to go into the toilet of the Argentinian restaurant, and we did watch. And it was then that we saw all the police lights on the beach.
Monaghan and Lyons were from the Glasgow area and had previously been linked to organised crime gangs. Both are believed to have been in Spain for several years. At the bar today, which remained closed, a small group of people were inside. One came out to tell us they were grieving and didn't want to speak. What's remarkable, less than 48 hours since this shooting, is there is no police cordon here. There's no sign of police activity at all. The Spanish police will only confirm that their inquiry is continuing. It's been placed under something they call judicial secrecy, which means no specific details are being released. This is a popular area for holidaymakers and expats attracted by the sun.
We've been in that bar every day for a few drinks before we went for a meal back to the hotel. And then there was no atmosphere in the club. It was great. People all friendly and helpful.
And when did you become aware of what happened on Saturday?
It was when two wee Spanish women, we were at the reception.
In your hotel?
Aye, came running in, bang, bang. And there was a wee security guard, asked what you on about. The next minute, looked down the road, saw the police and the blue lights.
And it must have been a bit of a shocking thing to see.
Aye, because me and the wife were going to come down to have a drink. So we're glad we changed our mind.
Before Saturday's double murder, there had been a spate of shootings in this part of Spain in the last few months.
I was a bit loath to tell the wife what had happened because we were coming today, but we brushed it off. So yeah, very surprised really.
As police continue their investigation, two key lines of inquiry will be whether this is connected to the recent shootings here or the series of gang-related incidents back home, including several fire bombings in Edinburgh, Glasgow and Lanarkshire. Gordon Cree, STV News, Fuengirola.
So that's the latest from Spain. But back here, the fear is these shootings could prompt further retaliation in Scotland. Well, we've been speaking to the former head of the Scottish Crime and Drug Enforcement Agency, Graham Pearson, and he says these latest killings in Malaga suggest this gang feud has escalated to a whole new level.
I don't think that you could overestimate the impact that will arise from the death of these two men. Both Lyons and Monaghan have been part of organised crime and criminality in Scotland for well over a decade. First of all, let's follow the evidence, find out that there is indeed a link to Scotland and confirm that. But if it's true, then this is a new level of violence that we haven't previously witnessed in organised crime in Scotland.
So what more do we know about these two men gunned down in Spain? Well, both were major players in the Lyons crime clan. Ross Monaghan is a face which may be familiar to you. This is him as he walked free from court in 2012 after being acquitted of the murder of gangland enforcer Kevin Gerbil Carroll. That shooting took place in the Asda car park in Rob Royston. Monaghan was himself a victim of a shooting outside a Glasgow primary school in 2017. It's thought he moved to Spain shortly afterwards, where he ran Monaghan's bar. Well, seen here beside Monaghan after an assault case against them both collapsed is Eddie Lyons Jr., the second man to be gunned down. Eddie survived a previous attack on his life, an ambush in Bells Hill carried out by Kevin Carroll, who we saw before. Well, the attacks continued. Eddie's cousin Michael was shot dead at a garage owned by his uncle in Glasgow's Lamb Hill nearly 20 years ago. This latest fatal double shooting in Spain is the most significant since the murder in the Asda car park 15 years ago and comes in the wake of a series of escalating incidents across the Central Belt, which began in March, as Gordon mentioned earlier. The concern now is the violence is far from over.
There will be people just now who will be making plans about how to take things forward. Now, those plans may well be a tit-for-tat response, and I'm sure Police Scotland will be aware of that possibility and will want to take steps to prevent it. But equally, it will be about the very significant wealth that lies behind organised crime, and folk will want to move in to steal that wealth at this stage.
Well, we'll bring you more on that story as we get it. And if you want to find out more of the background on the gangland feud, you'll find it on our website. Now, just days before the by-election in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has avoided a media event set up by the party. Mr Farage had been due to visit Hamilton this afternoon, but failed to show up, instead opting for a walkabout in nearby Larkhall. Earlier, he told reporters he doubts the party will win the vote on Thursday. Here's our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie.
Nigel Farage once took refuge from protesters in a pub on a previous visit to Scotland. This afternoon, he avoided them by inviting the media to a by-election walkabout before heading to an entirely different location. While he had a pint in Larkhall with a select few, the rest were left waiting in a car park in Hamilton.
We are here to say to Mr Farage, go back.
A small protest apparently enough to put them off. Earlier in Aberdeen, the party's leader admitted victory looks unlikely.
I doubt it. I mean, we're just, we are the new kids on the block. We're sort of a mid-teenager in terms of our development. I think to sort of expect us to do that and to have the machine to deal with the postal vote is asking too much. But you know what? If we come second, given where we were a year ago in Scotland, it's still a big story.
I hope we've not caused too much disruption.
With reform in town, the First Minister was looking to keep disruption to a minimum. He claims the party is now the SNP's main opponent in this race.
By talking them up like that, are you not at risk of emboldening them?
I'm recognising the reality that is becoming clear on the doorsteps of this constituency, that Labour are out of the race, they can't win. It's now between the SNP and Farage. And I'm just simply pointing out the dangers of voting for Nigel Farage. This is a man who gave us Brexit and made us poorer, who wants to privatise the National Health Service and wants to undermine the Scottish Parliament.
Labour insists it is far from down and out.
Well, John Swinney can't make his mind up. One day he says it's a 2-horse race, one day he says it's a 3-horse race. It's really important that we recognise that this is a Scottish Parliament by-election. Reform's poison can't win here. The SNP don't deserve to win after the record of failure. And only David Russell can beat the SNP and start that pathway to change the government here in Scotland.
Both Labour and the Conservatives lost a councillor to Reform today.
I think the people of Scotland should, if they paused and thought about it, should be worried about Reform in much the same way that they should be worried about the SNP, because the SNP and Reform are both populist parties. They both blame others for their problems and they both come up with simple solutions for difficult problems.
10 candidates are vying to become the next MSP for Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse.
I think that the only reason people are looking at Reform is because they're tired of being failed by parties of government in London and in Edinburgh. They're looking for something new. They don't have to settle for Farage. Aisha Mir has had a really positive message of fast access to your GP, NHS dentistry near you, improving your child's education.
What we're seeing is a genuinely frightening rise of far-right reactionary ideas. That's what Nigel Farage represents. He is a super-rich multi-millionaire who serves the interests of the billionaire class, just as so many on the right do.
Voters will give their verdict on Thursday in the result that should provide some hints for the Holyrood election next year. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
You can see a full list of candidates standing in the Scottish Parliament by-election on your screen now. And for more on this, tune in for a special edition of Scotland Tonight at 10:40, where our political editor Colin Mackay will give the candidates a grilling. Now, the UK will be put at war-fighting readiness to counter the threats from the likes of Russia and China, Keir Starmer has said. Unveiling a new defence strategy, the Prime Minister said billions of pounds of investment in military equipment would support tens of thousands of jobs in Scotland. Our Westminster correspondent Paris Gertsianis was at the announcement. What's in the new strategy then, Paris?
Well, Kellyanne, the Prime Minister came here to the BAE shipyard at Govan and he came with a stark message. The UK needs to be ready to fight because it might have to in the next few years against Russia in Eastern Europe or China in the Far East. And preparing for that will take major investment. That's exactly what was promised today. 12 new nuclear-powered attack submarines, 6 munitions factories to build long-range missiles, high-tech kit like drones, which are making such a difference on the battlefield in Ukraine, and £15 billion to renew the UK's arsenal of nuclear warheads. Now, there's cross-party support for higher defence spending, but when it comes to nuclear weapons, the SNP says that money would be better spent elsewhere.
I can't imagine anybody who seriously wants to be Prime Minister of this country coming to Scotland and saying that the first priority is not the safety and security of Scotland. Just consider the consequences of somebody as Prime Minister saying that. And remind ourselves that at this time of renewed threat and instability across Europe, the SNP's position is to get rid of our nuclear deterrent, the single most important part of our capability.
So how much of this investment will be coming to Scotland and how will it be paid for, Paris?
Well, we don't have all the detail yet, Kellyanne, but this will support additional jobs at places like this and in Rosyth, for instance, where they make the missile tubes that go in submarines. And in terms of how it's paid for, well, the UK government has already slashed the foreign aid budget, but this review says that defence spending overall should be at 3% of GDP. It currently stands at less than 2.5%, and there isn't a clear pathway for how to bridge the gap. Keir Starmer is already facing criticism over the difficult spending decisions he's had to make so far. The question is whether voters will be willing to pay the higher price for security in an unstable world.
All right, Paris, from the shipyards at Govan, thank you very much. A new project focused on suicide prevention in farming has been launched across Scotland. The Royal Scottish Agricultural Benevolent Institution says current research is outdated and needs to be improved to help those working in agriculture. One farm worker is sharing his story in the hope it might help others.
It can be a very isolating job, lonely. You could be days without seeing anybody. I've sort of suffered with depression for about 15, 16 years now. It's tragic in any case to see people lose their lives. Just helps people to talk about things, and if they see me doing it and see me being open and honest, that's all it can take for some people.
There is a warning. Tens of thousands of homes risk losing energy by the end of the month due to delays replacing outdated RTS meters. Citizens Advice Scotland says many households are struggling to arrange engineer visits, particularly in rural and remote areas. The charity is calling on suppliers to urgently prioritise the work. Scottish Water staff will strike for another week after rejecting another pay offer. Workers represented by the GMB, Unite and Unison unions have turned down a 3.4% pay increase. Scottish Water says it made the pay offer in line with the union's recommendations. A new rail service between Stirling and London Euston is expected to launch next year. The trains will be operated under First Group's Lumo brand, which will run 4 return services a day on the route. The service will also call at Larbert, Greenfold, Lockerbie, Whifflet and Motherwell. Now, families of those killed in a Chinook helicopter crash in 1994 say they're beginning legal action against the Ministry of Defence for not ordering a public inquiry. They want a High Court judge to look at information which they say was not included in previous investigations in the hope it sheds new light on what led to the crash. Our reporter Raheem Cham has been speaking to the families and can tell us more.
31 years on, this memorial near Birmingham is the lasting memory of those who died. 4 crew members and 25 passengers were killed when a Royal Air Force Chinook helicopter crashed in foggy weather over the Mull of Kintyre on June 2nd, 1994. Andrew Tobias was 8 when his father, Lieutenant Colonel John Tobias, died in the crash. He is part of the Chinook Justice Campaign group who want documents released, which they say will shed new light into the incident.
We watched a documentary which gave us, presented us information that we didn't know, one of which was documentation in relation to the crash had been sealed away for 100 years. No opportunity for family members to access that documentation. And those documents are all related to the crash. And that just generates a huge suspicion.
The helicopter was carrying top security personnel from RAF Aldergrove in Northern Ireland to a conference at Fort George near Inverness. Lawyers representing the victims' families say they believe there were fundamental flaws with the aircraft, yet it was still allowed to fly.
It had just been retrofitted with computers. We know the computer systems had bugs in them, yet these airplanes were banned from flying anywhere in the United Kingdom because of these bugs in the computer program. Yet these intelligence officers were put on this plane and flown in the middle of the night on a plane that should otherwise have been grounded.
The Ministry of Defence said the closed records held at the National Archives contain personal information relating to third-party individuals. The early release of this information will breach those individuals' data protection rights. While it's many decades on, the families are hoping as more information comes to light, they will be able to get some answers. Raheem Cham, STV News.
Right, it's time for us to catch up on all your sport now with Rahman, and you've got all the latest and the goings on at Rangers.
Plenty going on at Rangers, Kayla. We reported last week how the club is under new ownership now, a US consortium. Andrew Kavanagh, the health tycoon, and Parag Marathi of San Francisco 49ers. Now, they took a 51% controlling stake in the club last week. They've been quick to make key appointments. A new technical director has been appointed, a new sporting director has been appointed, and it appears the appointment of a head coach is imminent.
STV Sport.
sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Good evening. Rangers new sporting director Kevin Thelwell says the club are set to appoint a new head coach in the coming days. Thelwell, who officially started his role at Ibrox today, has been involved in the recruitment process along with the club's new owners. STV Sport understands former Real Madrid assistant head coach Davide Ancelotti and ex-Southampton manager Russell Martin are under serious consideration for the job. Rangers have also confirmed former Everton head of recruitment Dan Purdy is replacing Niels Coppen as their new technical director. Former Hearts captain Stephen Presley has been appointed as Dundee's new head coach. Presley's last job in management ended in 2019 at Carlisle United. Dundee say the former defender, who also had spells at Rangers and Celtic, was the outstanding candidate after a thorough and comprehensive search process. Last week, Presley left his position as Brentford's head of individual player development, saying he was looking for a new challenge. To tennis, and Cameron Norrie has crashed out of the French Open, losing his last 16 match to Novak Djokovic in straight sets. Three-time champion Djokovic rarely looked troubled against Norrie, winning 6-2, 6-3, 6-2 in just over 2 hours. He's beaten Norrie on all 6 meetings between the pair. To rugby, and Henko Venter admits he's upset to be leaving Glasgow Warriors this summer after Scottish rugby began a shift away from foreign players at professional clubs. South African forward Venter hopes to leave on a high note as Warriors prepare for this weekend's URC semi-final away to Leinster. Here's Jamie Borthwick.
He arrived 2 years ago as an unheralded recruit from South Africa. On Friday, Henko Venter said his goodbyes to Scotstoun after another towering display in the Glasgow Warriors engine room, as a shift in policy away from foreign recruits meant there'd be no new contract offer for the 33-year-old.
It's bad, and I didn't like it, but it's rugby. Like, you don't take anything personal. I wanted more Scottish players, and I understand that's their plan forward, and I respect it. I know I am not Scottish, and so it's a privilege to be here and to give back to the club and to the country.
Victory over the Stormers sets up a URC semi-final showdown with Leinster this weekend. The Dublin side have won both their meetings so far this season, including a 52-0 thumping in the Champions Cup. So, what will it take to come out on top this time around?
23 dogs. That's what it's going to take, and 80 minutes of just everyone giving everything. I think class outfit, world-class players, world-class coaching staff, but it's rugby, so if we do our stuff right and we bring dog, then we can do it.
Venter will embark on a new chapter with Brive in France next season, but he's determined that his Warriors story isn't over just yet. Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
To cricket, and Scotland appear to be on course for a win in their latest World Cup qualifier against Nepal at Forfarshire Cricket Club. Batting first, the Scots posted 296 for 7 from their 50 overs. In reply, Nepal are currently 224 for 7 and they need 73 runs from 43 balls. Scotland are aiming to qualify for the tournament, which is hosted by South Africa, Zimbabwe and Namibia in 2027.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
And that, folks, is all of your sport tonight. Have a lovely evening. Kellyanne.
All right, Rama, thank you. OK, let's get your weather now from Sean.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. Well, here we are in June, the start of meteorological summer, and by jings, we've not seen something like that for a while. Deep area of low pressure to the north of us, strong and gusty winds, plenty of rain around and staying pretty changeable for the next couple of days. Towards the end of the week, things quietening down a bit, but we'll still be left behind with some heavy thundery showers. What a change the weather's been, hasn't it? Inverclyde, parts of Renfrewshire, we've had about 4 weeks worth of rain in the last week. So we've done some catching up from that very, very dry weather we had the end of April and through most of May as well. But yes, we've seen a big change. Maybe little hints towards the middle of June we might start to see things settling back down once again, but changeable for the time being. Through tonight, plenty of rain, gusty winds as well. We could actually get gusts up to about 40, 50 miles per hour, especially around coastal parts in the Hebrides through tonight. So wet and windy overnight tonight. Not a great night, but it's the best rain that goes through during the night. However, tomorrow it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers, and the showers will be frequent, some heavy ones around, and we hang on to that blustery wind. It's going to feel quite chilly in those passing showers tomorrow with that wind, and temperatures probably dropping down to about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius on some of the heavier ones. Plenty of showers still around during Wednesday. We still hang on to the blustery wind too. By the time we get to Thursday and Friday, I've weeded out quite a few of the showers. It looks as if the weather should be a bit drier. However, the showers we do catch on Thursday and Friday, even though they're more isolated, could still be quite heavy. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally from us, Robbie Williams' superfan says she's in a whirlwind after the former Take That star dedicated a song to her at his Murrayfield gig at the weekend. Debbie Allen from Dundee has been to around 35 of his gigs, going since she was a teenager. She'd been queuing outside the stadium since 6 o'clock on Saturday morning to get in the front row.
I just keep replaying the videos and watching it again over and over, and yeah, I just wanted to be in that moment, and I just couldn't stop staring at him. I just kept looking at him and I didn't want to let go. When he was cuddling in, I was just like, this is amazing.
Oh, definitely worth it queuing early. And that's all for now. Don't forget, Colin has Scotland Tonight at 10:40, and I'll have your late news from everyone here. Bye-bye.